Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sun-scorched world of a Silk Road merchant, where the air smells of dust, camel sweat, and the faint promise of profit. Picture yourself waking in a cramped caravanserai. Stone walls, cool against the desert's creeping heat. Your bedroll barely softening the hard earth beneath you. This isn't a tale of shining armor or grand battles. Just you, a few stubborn camels, and a load of silk worth more than your life. One bad deal. One bandit raid. And you're not making it home to Chang'an. So, before you settle in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Iron Age Chronicles. But only if these slow, soothing stories help you unwind. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. It's oddly comforting to know who's drifting off with us. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum. And let's ease into this journey together. You wake at dawn. The sky, a pale bruise above the horizon. The air already heavy with the day's heat. The caravanserai buzzes with noise. Camels grunting. Pots clanging. Merchants barking orders in languages you barely grasp. Your back aches from the lumpy bedroll. Your mouth tastes of stale flatbread, gritty with sand. You're no noble, just a merchant with 3 camels and a bundle of silk. Each bale, a small fortune tied in coarse cloth. The Silk Road lies ahead. Not one path, but a web of trails stretching from China to Persia. Maybe Rome if you're lucky. Historians still argue whether it was a trade network or a cultural bridge. But to you, it's a gauntlet of dust and danger, where every step is a bet against ruin. You crawl from your bedroll, shaking off the night's chill. The caravanserai, a walled inn of stone arches. Shelters, merchants like you from bandits and storms. In the courtyard, camels kneel, chewing cud with the boredom of old clerks. Your 3 beasts glare at you, humps sagging from weeks on the move. You check their packs. The silk bales wrapped tight to keep out moths and damp. A single tear in the cloth could ruin you. Turn profit into loss. Your fingers trace the ropes, tugging knots to be sure they'll hold. A loose tie means a lost bale. And that means no lamb for dinner. Just dirt and debt when you get home. Your companions stir nearby. Amir, a Persian with a beard like tangled wool, claims he's crossed the Taklamakan twice and lived to haggle. He's probably exaggerating, but his nose for trouble is worth his stories. May, a sharp-eyed woman from the east, travels with her brother and a cart of pottery, so fragile you wince at every jolt. They're not friends. Not quite. But you stick together. Alone. You're prey, as a caravan. You're a harder target for raiders or toll collectors. You nod to Amir, who's already cursing a camel's bad temper. And check your water skin. It's half empty. And the next oasis is a day away. You sling it over your shoulder. The weight a reminder of what's at stake. The Silk Road's history is vast, linking empires for centuries, from Han China to the Roman West, carrying silk, spices, and ideas. One quirky tidbit: merchants often use dried camel dung as fuel for campfires. A trick you've learned to stomach despite the smell. You grab your staff, worn smooth by your grip, and call to your camels. They rise with groans, spitting as if you've personally offended them. The caravan forms, a ragged line of beasts and burdens. You glance at the horizon, where the sun climbs, baking the earth. It's time to move. Every day you linger, risks, bandits, storms, or worse, a bad bargain. You take a breath, dust coating your tongue, and step forward into the endless road. Section 2. Packing the caravan. You stand in the caravanserai's courtyard, the morning sun already stinging your neck. The air hums with chaos. Merchants shouting, camels snorting, and the clatter of wooden crates being stacked. Your task is clear. Load your camels with silk bales and supplies. But it's not as simple as tossing goods on their backs. Every knot, every strap, every choice could mean the difference between profit and ruin. You're not just packing for a journey. You're packing for survival. Praying bandits don't spot your caravan, or that a sandstorm doesn't bury your goods. One misstep, and you're explaining to your family why you're coming home with nothing but sunburn and regrets. Your 3 camels kneel, chewing cud with the enthusiasm of a tax collector. Each bale of silk, wrapped in coarse hemp, weighs as much as a small child. And you've got 12 to load. You start with the strongest camel, a wiry beast you call Old Stone for his stubborn refusal to budge under pressure. You hoist a bale, musculus training, and tie it to the wooden saddle frame. The ropes must be tight, but not so tight they chafe the camel's hide. Loose knots mean lost cargo. Too tight ones mean a lame beast by noon. You loop the rope, knot it twice, and tug hard. Old Stone grunts, unimpressed. His breath smelling of sour grass. You move to the next camel, a younger one named Dust, who flicks his tail like he's plotting revenge. The silk bales are your fortune, each one a month's labor from weavers in Chang'an, dyed with indigo or saffron, colors that fetch high prices in Samarkand or Baghdad. But they're fragile. A single damp night can ruin the fabric. Mold creeping in, like a thief. You wrap each bale in extra cloth, muttering a prayer to whatever gods watch these roads. Historians still argue whether the Silk Road's wealth came more from goods like silk or the ideas they carried. But right now, you care only about keeping your cargo dry and bandit-free. Your water skins come next. 6 of them, heavy with the oasis's murky water. You sling them carefully, balancing the weight across Dust's flanks. Food follows. Sacks of dried apricots, flatbread, and a precious jar of honey you guard like a relic. You tuck in a small bundle of medicinal herbs, a quirky tidbit you picked up from a Sogdian trader. Crushed mint leaves for nausea, though they smell like a weaver's dye vat. You check the straps again. Your fingers raw from coarse rope. Amir, the Persian, watches from nearby, tossing a knife between his hands. He smirks, saying your knots look like a drunk sailor's work. You laugh, but check them again anyway. The courtyard grows louder as other merchants pack. May, the pottery trader, curses as her brother drops a crate, the crack of clay making you wince. You've seen her haggle. She's sharper than a dagger, but her goods are a gamble. One bad yolt, and her profits are dust. You nod to her, a silent wish for luck. She nods back, tying her own ropes with the precision of a scribe. The caravan is small, just 10 camels and 5 merchants. But it's enough to deter small-time bandits. Bigagunks. Though, that's another story. You push the thought away and focus on the last bale. Packing takes hours. The sun climbing higher, turning the courtyard into an oven. Sweat beads on your brow, dripping onto the sand. You pause to drink. The water warm and tasting of leather. A mainstream fact anchors you. The Silk Road, active from roughly 200 BCE to 1400 CE, moved goods across 4,000 miles, linking empires. But out here, it's not history. It's your life. You tie the final knot, step back, and survey your work. The camels are loaded, swaying slightly under the weight. Old Stone spits, as if to say you're an idiot for thinking this will go smoothly. You pat his flank, whispering, "He'd better not dump your silk in a ditch." Amir calls everyone together. The caravan must move before the heat peaks. You check your dagger, tucked in your belt. Not much against a bandit's sword, but better than nothing. You glance at the horizon, where dust clouds swirl. Maybe wind, maybe trouble. Your stomach twists. But you've got no choice. The road waits, and so do the markets. You grab Old Stone's lead, give a sharp tug, and start walking. The caravan lurches forward, a creaking, grumbling beast of its own. You're on the Silk Road now. Every step, a wager. Every bale, a dream of coin. Section 3. Camel Complaints. You trudge along the Silk Road, the sun climbing higher, baking the earth beneath your boots. The caravan creaks forward, a slow parade of swaying camels and muttering merchants. Your 3 camels, Old Stone, Dust, and a scrawny one you call Twig, plod along, their hooves kicking up clouds of dust that coat your tongue. They're not just beasts of burden, they're your lifeline. You're grumpy, spitting partners in this gamble for profit. Each one has a personality, and not the charming kind. You're learning fast that understanding their quirks is as crucial as dodging bandits or finding water. One wrong step, one camel tantrum, and your silk is scattered across the desert like a noble's bad poetry. Old Stone leads the pack, his head bobbing with the arrogance of a market boss. He's reliable, but stubborn, refusing to move if you tug his rope too hard. You've already learned to coax him with a handful of dried grass, a trick you picked up from a Bactrian trader who swore camels respect bribes more than commands. Dust, the younger one, is twitchy, his ears flicking at every gust of wind, as if he expects a sandstorm or a tiger to leap from the dunes. Twig, the smallest, lags behind, wheezing under the weight of just 2 bales. You worry about him. His bony frame doesn't look built for the long haul. A mainstream fact grounds you camels. Domesticated around 2000 BCE in Central Asia, carried the Silk Road's wealth, their ability to go days without water making them indispensable. You pause to adjust Twig's load, shifting a bale to Dust's back. Dust snorts, baring yellowed teeth, and you mutter an apology, half expecting him to roll his eyes. Amir, walking nearby, laughs, saying you treat your camels like family. You shrug. But he's not wrong. These beasts are your fortune and your frustration. A quirky tidbit: you've heard some merchants tie bells to their camels, claiming the jingle wards off evil spirits. You don't believe in spirits, but you're tempted to try it, if only to drown out Twig's constant grumbling. The road stretches ahead, a faint track of packed earth, winding through scrub and stone. You scan the horizon, wary of dust clouds that might signal raiders. Your hand rests on your dagger, more habit than confidence. The camel's complaints grow louder as the heat rises. Old Stone stops dead, refusing to move until you nudge him with your staff. Dust spits, a glob landing on your boot, and you curse under your breath. Amir, ever helpful, suggests you sing to them, says it calms his own beasts. You try, humming a half-remembered tune from Chang'an. The camels ignore you. But May, walking behind, stifles a laugh. You grin, admitting your singing's more likely to scare off customers than soothe camels. Historians still argue whether camels or horses were the Silk Road's true backbone. But you know the truth without these stubborn, smelly creatures. You'd be hauling silk on your own back. You check their hooves, looking for cracks or stones, twigs limping slightly, and you kneel, prying a pebble from his pad. He snorts, almost grateful, and you pat his flank, whispering he'd better not kit on you. The caravan halts briefly, letting you catch your breath. You sip from your water skin, the liquid warm and tasting of leather. The sun's high now, turning your tunic into a damp rag. You glance at your companions, Amir adjusting his camel's saddle, May tying a cloth over her face against the dust. You're a team, bound by the road's demands. But you all know one sick camel or one bad day could break you. You move on. The camel's complaints, a steady rhythm to your steps. Old Stone grumbles at a steep incline. Dust balks at a patch of loose gravel. And Twig just wheezes, his eyes half closed. You talk to them softly. Not because it works, but because it keeps you sane. The road's endless. The heat relentless. But you've got silk to sell and a home to return to. You tug Old Stone's rope. Ignore dust's glare. And pray Twig holds out. The desert doesn't care about your plans. But these camels are your only shot at beating it. Section 4. Oasis Bargaining. The sun scorches the desert, turning the air into a shimmering haze as your caravan trudges toward a smudge of green on the horizon, an oasis. Your throat's dry. Your boots are caked with dust. And your camels, Old Stone, Dust, and Twig, plod along, their grumbles quieter now, as if they sense water ahead. The oasis is more than a place to refill your skins. It's a marketplace. A crossroads where traders from China, Persia, and beyond clash in a chaos of shouts and deals. You're here to haggle, to turn your silk into coin or goods. But one bad bargain could leave you with nothing but a story of failure. You grip your staff, scanning the palm-lined stalls, knowing every merchant here is as sharp as a dagger and twice as slippery. The oasis hums with life. Tents of striped wool flap in the breeze, their colours faded by sand and sun. Merchants hawk spices, dried figs, and bolts of cloth. Their voices, a jumble of languages, Sogdian, Arabic, something you think might be Greek. You lead your camels to a watering trough, watching as Old Stone drinks greedily, splashing water over his bristly chin. You pay a copper coin to the waterkeeper, a boy no older than 10, who eyes your silk bales like a hawk. You've learned to keep your goods close. Thieves here are as common as flies. A mainstream fact anchors you, oases, like this one, scattered across the Silk Road from the 1st century BCE, were vital hubs, sustaining trade and spreading culture across continents. You tether your camels, checking their ropes twice. Twig's already eyeing a patch of grass, like it's a banquet. The market's heart is a maze of stalls, each piled with goods, saffron in tiny pouches, jade beads, even a cage of squawking parrots. You spot a Persian trader, his turban bright with indigo. Sizing up your silk, he gestures you over, his smile too wide to trust. You unroll a bale, letting the fabric catch the light, its sheen drawing gasps from passers-by. Haggling begins, a dance of words and gestures. He offers a sack of dates and a silver ring, lowballing you with a shrug. You counter, asking for coin and a bolt of his own wool. He laughs, saying your silk's too thin for Samarkand's tastes. You know he's lying, but you keep your face calm, a skill honed from years of dodging cheats. A quirky tidbit surfaces in your mind. Some traders here rub garlic on their hands before deals, believing it brings luck. You notice the Persian's fingers smell faintly of it, and you stifle a grin, wondering if he thinks you're that gullible. You hold firm, pointing out the silk's tight weave, dyed with saffron, only nobles can afford. He grumbles, but adds a second ring to the offer. You're tempted, But you've heard of traders stuck with fake silver, rings that turn green by the next moon. Historians still argue whether Silk Road markets were fairer than modern ones. But out here, you trust your eyes over any scholar's scroll. You shake your head, demanding coin instead. The Persian sighs, tossing a small purse of dirhams onto the table. You count them carefully, feeling the crowd's eyes on you. May, your caravan companion, haggles nearby, her pottery drawing a small crowd. She's better at this than you, her voice sharp as she rejects a low offer. Amir lounges by the camels, pretending to nap, but watching for pickpockets. You seal the deal, pocketing the coins and trading one bale for a sack of dried apricots useful for the road. The Persian mutters something about your mother and a camel, but you let it slide, already scanning for the next buyer. The oasis is a gamble. Every deal, a test of wits. You wipe sweat from your brow, sip from your water skin, and move deeper into the market. Your silk's lighter now, but the road ahead is long, and every coin counts. Section 5. Starlit Navigation. The oasis fades behind you, its palm trees shrinking into the dusk as your caravan presses onward, the desert swallowing the last of the day's heat. You walk beside Old Stone, his hooves crunching on the cooling sand. The sky above, turning a deep indigo speckled with stars. Night on the Silk Road is no time to rest. It's when you move fastest. The air kinder to both man and camel. Your job now is to guide your caravan by the heavens, reading constellations like a map to avoid deadly dunes or bandit trails. One wrong turn, and you're lost in a sea of sand. Your silk and your hopes buried by morning. The stars are your guide, brighter than any torch. You squint upward, picking out the bear, its tail pointing north, a trick you learned from a grizzled Sogdian who swore it saved him in the Taklamakan. Old Stone plods steadily, his breath puffing in the chilly air, while dust and twig trail behind, their ropes taut in your hand. The caravan moves in a loose line, 10 camels swaying under their loads. Amir humming a Persian tune to keep the pace. May's cart creaks, its wheels grinding against the packed earth. You glance at the sky again, checking the hunter's belt. 3 stars that anchor your path west. A mainstream fact grounds you Silk Road traders. As early as 200 BCE, used star navigation, blending Chinese and Persian astronomy to cross deserts where landmarks vanished. You adjust your course, nudging Old Stone left to skirt a shadowy dune. The sand here is treacherous, hiding sinkholes that can swallow a camel whole. You've heard tales of entire caravans vanishing, their bones found years later. Still clutching silk. A quirky tidbit pops into your mind. Some traders tied red cloth to their lead camel's tail, believing it confused desert spirits into sparing them. You haven't tried it, but Twig's tail looks tempting, his wheezing louder in the quiet night. You pat his flank, whispering for him to keep up, though he only snorts. Unimpressed, the silence is heavy, broken only by the camel's grunts and the occasional clink of May's pottery. Amir points to a faint glow on the horizon. A caravanserai, or maybe a bandit camp. You tense, hand on your dagger, but the glow fades. Just a trick of the stars. Historians still argue whether most Silk Road losses came from nature or raiders. But out here, both feel equally real. You check the stars again. The bear still true. And adjust Dust's rope. He's wandered too far right. Sniffing at a scrub bush, like it's a feast. You took him back, muttering he'd sell your silk for a mouthful of thorns. The cold seeps through your tunic, your breath fogging faintly. You wrap a wool scarf tighter. A gift from a trader in Kashgar who underpaid you for silk, but overpaid in charm. The night's beauty is undeniable. stars like scattered coins across a velvet sky. But it's a cruel beauty. Miss a constellation. Misjudge a dune. And you're done. You pause to let the caravan rest. The camels kneeling with groans. You sip from your water skin. The liquid icy now. And pass it to May. She nods thanks. Her face half hidden by her scarf. Amir scans the darkness. His knife glinting in the starlight. You all know the road doesn't forgive mistakes. You walk on. Eyes flicking between the stars and the ground. A shooting star streaks overhead. And you half smile, wondering if it's a good omen or just a rock burning out. Amir would say it's a sign of prophet. May would roll her eyes. You don't pray. Not exactly. But you hope the stars stay clear. The road stretches on, a faint path under the endless sky. And you keep moving. One step. One star at a time. Guiding your caravan toward dawn. Section 6. Bandit Shadows. The desert night wraps around you. The stars above, sharp and unyielding, as you lead your caravan across the endless sand. Old Stone plods ahead, his breath puffing in the cold, while Dust and Twig shuffle behind. Their ropes heavy in your hand. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the soft crunch of hooves and the creak of May's cart. Your eyes dart to the horizon, where a faint dust cloud stirs, barely visible against the starlit dunes. It could be wind, a trick of the moonlight, or something worse, bandits. Your heart thuds, your grip tightening on your dagger. Out here, on the Silk Road, shadows don't just hide danger, they breed it. One wrong move, and your silk, your camels, your life could vanish into the night. You signal to Amir, who's walking a few paces ahead, his knife already drawn, glinting like a sliver of moon. He squints at the horizon, his beard twitching as he mutters a curse in Persian. My slow's haircut. Her brother clutching a staff like it's a spear. The caravan halts, camels snorting. Sensing the tension, you crouch low, scanning the ridge. The dust cloud shifts, growing closer, and now you hear it, a faint hoofbeat. Steady and deliberate. Bandits are the Silk Road's constant shadow, preying on merchants like you since the Han dynasty opened these routes around 130 BCE. A mainstream fact anchors you raiders, often nomadic tribes or desperate ex-soldiers, could strike anywhere, from the Gobi to the Pamirs, turning trade into a deadly gamble. You whisper to Old Stone to stay still, though he's already frozen, his ears pricked. The hoofbeats grow louder, and you spot Shape's 3 riders, cloaked, their horses lean and fast. Your stomach twists. 3 is manageable. Maybe. But if they're scouts for a larger band, you're in trouble. A quirky tidbit flashes through your mind. Some bandits mark their horses' hooves with ash to muffle their sound. A trick you wish you'd known before this moment. You glance at Amir, who nods, signaling to spread out. Make the caravan look bigger. May ties a cloth over her cart's pottery, hiding its gleam. You loosen your dagger, its weight small but reassuring, though you know it's no match for a curved saber. The riders slow, circling at a distance, their silhouettes sharp against the dunes. You stand tall, staff in one hand, dagger in the other, trying to look like a man who's faced worse. You haven't? Not really. But they don't need to know that. Amir steps forward, shouting a greeting in a mix of Sogdian and bravado, offering a small sack of dates as a peace gesture. The riders pause, one dismounting to inspect it. You hold your breath, praying they take the bribe and move on. Historians still argue whether most bandit encounters ended in blood or barter, but out here, you'd rather pay than fight. The lead rider grunts, pocketing the dates, then gestures to his companions. They turn, vanishing into the dark, their hoofbeats fading. You exhale, your knees weak. The caravan moves again, slower now. Every shadow a threat. Old Stone snorts, as if mocking your nerves, and you pat his flank, muttering he'd be less smug with a bandit's arrow in his hump. Mai smirks, whispering that your face was paler than the moon. You laugh, the sound shaky, and pass her, your water skin. Amir keeps watch, his knife still out, his eyes scanning the dunes. The stars burn overhead, guiding you west, but they offer no protection. You walk on, the dust settling behind you, the night stretching endless and unkind. Your silk is safe, for now, but the road has more shadows waiting. Section 7. Silk's heavy price. The desert morning breaks, a thin line of gold splitting the horizon as you guide your caravan forward. The sand still cool under your boots. Old Stone plods steadily, his humps swaying with each step, while Dust and Twig trail behind, their ropes taut in your hand. The scare from last night's bandit shadows lingers, but the road demands you focus on what's ahead. Profit. Your silk bales, tied tightly to your camels, are your fortune, but they come with a cost heavier than their weight taxes, bribes, and the constant math of survival. Every coin you earn in Samarkand or Baghdad will be clawed at by toll collectors, greedy officials, and your own empty stomach. One bad deal, and you're trudging home with nothing but dust and a story no one wants to hear. You pause to check your bales, running your fingers along the coarse hemp wrappings. Each one holds silk fine enough for a noble's robe, dyed in colors, crimson, indigo that gleam like jewels in the market. But getting them there is a gauntlet. You mentally tally your costs: water for the camels, food for yourself, the fees for the caravanserai. Then there are the taxes, levied at every city gate, every border. A mainstream fact grounds you by the 7th century. Tang dynasty officials taxed Silk Road goods heavily, sometimes taking a third of a merchant's cargo in silk or coin to fund their armies. Your profit shrinks with every checkpoint, and you haven't even reached the first one yet. Amir walks beside you, chewing a dried apricot, his beard dusted with sand. He grumbles about a toll collector in Kashgar who demanded 2 bolts of silk just to wave him through. You nod, remembering a quirky tidbit. Some traders hid small gems inside camel saddles to dodge taxes. Though you're not brave or foolish enough to try it, you'd rather pay than risk a guard's blade. You pull out a small leather book, scribbling numbers with a charred stick. Your expected earnings minus bribes, minus food, minus whatever the next oasis demands. The numbers don't look good, but you're used to that. Profit is a hope, not a promise. The caravan moves slowly, the sun climbing, turning your tunic into a sweaty second skin. May's cart creaks ahead, her brother fanning himself with a palm leaf. You overhear her muttering about a buyer in Samarkand who pays in gold. Not promises. You make a mental note to find that buyer, though you know he'll haggle you into the ground. Historians still argue whether Silk Road merchants grew rich or merely survived. But out here, survival feels like wealth enough. You adjust Old Stone's load, his grunt sounding like agreement. Dust, ever twitchy, snaps at a fly, nearly toppling a bale. You curse, steadying it. Your hands raw from rope burns. A toll post looms ahead, a squat stone tower manned by a guard in a faded tunic. He eyes your caravan like a vulture, his spear leaning lazily against the wall. You fish out a small purse, counting out copper coins, your heart sinking with each clink. The guard inspects a bale, poking it with a stick, as if he expects it to bite. He demands an extra coin for safe passage. A bribe. You can't refuse. You hand it over. Your smile tight. And he waves you through. Amir mutters something unrepeatable about the guard's mother. And you stifle a laugh, grateful for the moment's levity. You walk on, the road stretching toward a distant ridge. The weight of your silk feels heavier now. Not in your hands, but in your mind. Every bale is a risk. Every coin a fight. You glance at Twig. His wheezing softer today. And hope he holds out. The desert doesn't care about your ledger. But you do. You clutch your book, scribble another note, and keep moving, chasing a profit that feels as fleeting as the morning's cool air. Section 8. Desert Survival Tricks. The Silk Road Street retches before you. A ribbon of sand and stone baking under a relentless midday sun. Your caravan trudges on. Old Stone's hooves sinking into the dunes. Dust flicking his tail in irritation. And Twig, wheezing with every step. The air shimmers with heat, drying your throat and turning your tunic into a damp rag. Out here, survival isn't just about dodging bandits or making a profit. It's about mastering the desert's cruel tricks. You've learned to ration water, dodge scorpions, and read the land's subtle warnings. Because one careless moment could leave your silk and your bones bleaching under the sun. You check your water skin, shaking it to gauge what's left. It sloshes faintly. Enough for a day, if you're stingy. You take a small sip, the water warm and tasting faintly of leather, and pass it to Amir, who grunts thanks. Water is your lifeline, more precious than the silk on your camels. A mainstream fact anchors you Silk Road traders. From the 2nd century BCE onward, relied on oases and careful rationing to cross deserts like the Taklamakan, where a single dry day could kill. You've learned to drink only at dawn and dusk, letting thirst sharpen your focus during the heat. You tee a cloth over your face, blocking the dust that stings your eyes, and check Twig's load, his thin frame trembling under the bales. The desert has its own language, and you're learning to read it. A patch of cracked earth means firm footing. A ripple in the sand hints at a hidden sinkhole. You spot a glint under a rock, a scorpion, its tail curved, like a merchant's smile. You steer Old Stone clear. Remembering a quirky tidbit, some traders carried dried lizard tails as a charm against venomous stings. Though you'd rather trust your boots than superstition. You kick a stone aside, watching for more scorpions, their small shadows darting in the heat. Dust snorts, as if mocking your caution, and you mutter he'd be less smug with a sting in his hoof. May walks nearby, her cart's wheels creaking, her brother fanning himself with a rag. She points to a distant ridge, its outline wavering in the haze. You nod, adjusting your path to avoid the soft sand that could bog down her cart. Historians still argue whether Silk Road survival relied more on knowledge or luck, but you lean toward the former. You've learned to wrap your feet in extra cloth to prevent blisters, to sleep with your head elevated to avoid sand in your nose, and to watch the camel's ears they twitch before a sandstorm hits. Old Stone's ears are still, but you don't relax. The desert doesn't warn twice. You pause to rest, the caravan huddling in the shade of a rocky outcrop. You pour a small amount of water into a bowl for Twig, who laps it up, his eyes half closed. Amir shares a handful of dried apricots, their sweetness a brief escape from the dust. You chew slowly, savoring the taste, and joke that the desert's so dry it could turn wine to powder. Mai snorts, saying you'd sell the powder for a profit. You laugh, the sound swallowed by the vast silence. The break is short, Lingering invites heatstroke, or worse. You check your ropes, tighten a loose strap on Dust's saddle, and stand, your knees creaking like an old cart. The road ahead shimmers, a cruel mirage of water you've learned to ignore. You lead Old Stone forward, his grumbling softer now, as if he knows the oasis is still days away. You scan the ground for tracks human, animal, or otherwise your dagger loose in its sheath. The desert is a teacher, harsh but honest. You've learned its lessons, not out of choice, but necessity. Every step is a test, every sip a calculation. You wipe sweat from your brow, squint at the horizon, and keep moving, one careful trick at a time. Section 9. Caravanserai. Gossip. The sun dips low, painting the desert in shades of amber as your caravan approaches a caravanserai, its stone walls rising like a promise of rest. Old Stone plods forward, his hooves kicking up sand, while Dust and Twig trail behind. They're grumbling quieter now, sensing shelter. The air cools, carrying the scent of smoke and roasted meat from within. This isn't just a place to sleep, it's a hub of stories, whispers, and half-truths traded over flickering fires. You're here to rest, refill your water, and listen, because the gossip in a caravanserai can save your silk or sink it. One tall tale believed too eagerly, and you're chasing a lost city instead of a prophet. You lead your camels through the arched gate, the courtyard bustling with merchants, porters, and camels spitting in protest. You tether Old Stone to a post, checking his ropes as he eyes a trough of water. The caravanserai is a fortress of noise and smells sweat, spices, and the faint tang of sour wine. You pay a silver coin to the keeper, a wiry man with a squint, who points you to a corner for your camels. A mainstream fact grounds you caravanserai, built across the Silk Road from the 4th century BCE, were safe havens, offering shelter and trade to travelers like you, linking empires through shared stories and goods. You settle by a fire, the flames crackling as merchants gather, their voices a tangle of Persian, Sogdian, and broken Chinese. An old trader, his turban frayed, spins a tale of a lost city buried in the Taklamakan, its towers gleaming with gold. You lean in, skeptical but curious. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some travelers claim these stories were spread by bandits to lure greedy merchants into ambushes. You glance at Amir, who's sharpening his knife, his eyes narrowing at the old man's words. He mutters that only fools chase ghost cities. And you nod, though the idea tugs at you, like a child pulling your sleeve. The firelight dances on May's face as she listens, her brother munching flatbread nearby. A Greek trader yoins, his accent thick, boasting of a shortcut through the mountains that cuts 3 days off the journey. You've heard this one before. Shortcuts usually mean rock slides or worse. Historians still argue whether caravanserai gossip spread more truth or trouble. But out here, you sift every word like sand for gold. You sip warm tea, the cup rough in your hands, and ask the Greek about bandits on his route. He shrugs, saying he's never seen one, which makes you trust him less. Amir chuckles, whispering that the Greek's nose grows with every word. You stifle a laugh, spilling tea on your tunic. The night deepens, the courtyard quieter now, save for a camel's snort and the soft strum of a lute. You overhear a woman whispering about a plague in the next town, her voice low, urgent. Your stomach twists. Disease is a worse thief than any bandit. You make a mental note to avoid that route, even if it adds a week. May catches your eye, nodding slightly, her own ears sharp for useful rumors. You stretch out on your bedroll, the stone floor hard but welcome after days of sand. The old trader's story lingers. A city of gold, tempting your tired mind. You shake it off, focusing on the real, your silk, your camels, the road ahead. You check Twig's water, his wheezing softer tonight, and pat his flank. The fire dies to embers, and the voices fade. You lean back, staring at the stars through an open arch. Their light cold and distant. The caravanserai hums with secrets. Some true, some traps. You've learned to listen without believing, to rest without relaxing. Tomorrow, you'll move on, carrying your silk and a few choice whispers, hoping they lead to profit, not peril. For now, you close your eyes, the lute's faint notes lulling you towards sleep. Section 10. Monsoon delays. The desert gives way to a greener stretch of the Silk Road, where scrubby hills rise under a sky heavy with clouds. Your caravan moves slower now, old stone's hooves sinking into damp earth, dust flicking his tail at the first drops of rain, and Twig wheezing as mud clings to his legs. The air smells of wet grass, and trouble a monsoon is brewing. And it's no friend to a merchant. You're stuck, waiting out the rains in a makeshift camp, mending torn packs and praying your silk stays dry. One soaked bale, one ruined journey, and you're back home explaining to your family why you're eating dirt instead of lamb. You huddle under a canvas tarp, its edges flapping as rain pelts the ground, turning the path into a soupy mess. Your camels kneel nearby, old stone grumbling louder than the thunder, his humps glistening with water. You check your silk bales, wrapped in extra hemp, but the damp creeps in, threatening mold. You've tied them high on a wooden frame, a trick you learned from a trader in Dunhuang. But it's a gamble. A mainstream fact anchors you monsoons, hitting Central Asia from June to September since ancient times, disrupted Silk Road trade, forcing merchants to camp for weeks, sometimes months. As rivers swelled and roads vanished, you grab a needle and coarse thread, stitching a tear in Twig's saddlebag. Your fingers stiff from the cold. Rain drips through the tarp, pooling at your feet. Amir, crouched nearby, curses the weather, saying he'd rather face bandits than mud. You nod, half smiling, and joke that at least bandits don't ruin your boots. May's cart is stuck, its wheels half buried, her brother shoveling mud with a flat stone. She glares at the sky, muttering about lost time and spoiled pottery. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some merchants burned camel dung mixed with herbs to ward off monsoon fevers, believing the smoke cleansed the air. You haven't tried it, but the idea's tempting as you cough in the damp. The camp is a soggy mess, your fire barely alive, spitting smoke that stings your eyes. You ration, your food dried apricots and hard flatbread, knowing supplies might not last. Historians still argue whether monsoons shaped the Silk Road's routes more than politics or wars. But out here, the rain feels like your only enemy. You check Twig's health, his wheezing worse in the wet, and rub his flanks with a dry cloth, whispering, he'd better not kit on you. Dust snaps at a fly, his mood as foul as the weather, while Old Stone just stares, unimpressed by the downpour. You mend another pack, the needle pricking your thumb, drawing a bead of blood. Amir shares a story of a trader who lost his entire caravan to a flash flood, his silk floating down a river like a noble's banner. You laugh, saying you'd rather lose your silk than your sense. But the thought lingers. The rain drums on, relentless, and you wonder how long you'll be stuck. Mai paces, calculating her losses, while her brother builds a small dam to divert water from their cart. You admire their grit, even as you curse the mud caking your boots. Days pass. The rain, a constant roar. You keep busy, sharpening your dagger, recounting your coins, anything to fend off the boredom. At night, you lie under the tarp, listening to the storm, the camel's snorts blending with the wind. You dream of dry roads and bustling markets, but wake to more rain. The monsoon doesn't care about your schedule or your silk. You stitch another tier, check your bales again, and settle in, knowing the road will wait, but your patience might not. Section 11. Mountain Pass Perils. The monsoon has finally relented, leaving the ground soggy but passable as your caravan climbs into the rugged hills of the Silk Road. The air grows thin, sharp, with the scent of pine and frost. As you guide Old Stone up a narrow path, his hooves slipping on icy rocks, dust and twig follow, their breaths puffing in the cold, their bales swaying precariously. You're navigating a mountain pass, a jagged scar through the Pamirs, where one wrong step could send your camels, your silk, or you plummeting into a ravine. The stakes are high, lose your footing here. And there's no market in Samarkand, just a cold grave under the snow. You grip your staff, its wood worn smooth, and scan the trail ahead, where loose stones litter the path like a trap. The wind howls, tugging at your cloak, and you wrap it tighter. Your fingers numb. Old Stone grunts, his ears twitching as a pebble skitters downslope, and you murmur to him to stay steady, though your own heart's racing. A mainstream fact grounds you mountain passes, like those in the Pamirs used since 200 BCE, were vital Silk Road arteries, but their steep trails claimed countless lives, from traders to their beasts. You've heard of caravans buried by avalanches, their silk frozen in time, and you pray you're not next. You check Twig's load, his thin frame trembling under the weight. He's struggling, his wheezing louder in the thin air, and you lighten his bales, shifting one to Dust, who snorts in protest. A quirky tidbit comes to mind. Some traders tied yak hair to their camels' reins, believing it brought mountain spirits favor. You haven't tried it, but you eye the cliffs warily. Half tempted, Amir walks ahead, probing the path with a long stick, his beard flecked with frost. He calls back warnings about icy patches, and you nod, grateful for his sharp eyes. May's cart is a problem, its wheels skid on the slick stone, and her brother braces it with his shoulder, cursing under his breath. The pass narrows, the rock walls closing in, their surfaces slick with ice. You hear a distant rumble, maybe thunder, maybe a rock slide, and your stomach twists. Historians still argue whether natural hazards or bandits killed more Silk Road travelers. But up here, the mountains feel like the bigger threat. You pause to catch your breath, the air burning your lungs, and sip from your water skin, the liquid near frozen. Dust snaps at a gust of wind, nearly toppling his load, and you steady him, muttering he'd better not start a landslide. Mai overhears, chuckling despite the cold, and you grin, the moment easing your nerves. You press on, the path steepening, each step a test of balance. A loose rock tumbles, bouncing into the abyss below, and Old Stone freezes, his eyes wide. You coax him forward, your voice soft, promising a warm stall if he makes it. The caravan moves like a single creature, slow and cautious. Every creak of May's cart a reminder of the weight you all carry. You spot a crude shrine carved into the rock, a traveller's offering to the mountain gods, and toss a copper coin at its base. Not because you believe, but because it can't hurt. Amir sees and smirks, saying you're softer than your silk, You laugh, saying, "At least silk doesn't fall off cliffs." The pass's summit looms, a faint promise of flatter ground. You climb higher, the wind biting your face, your boots crunching on frost. The camels are holding, barely, and you're still upright, your staff digging into the earth. The road beyond the pass beckons. But for now, do you focus on the next step, the next breath, the next prayer that the mountains let you through. Section 12. Strange local customs. The mountain pass fades behind you, its icy grip loosening as your caravan descends into a broad valley where the Silk Road weaves through a cluster of mud brick villages. The air warms, thick with the scent of baked earth and blooming wildflowers. As Old Stone plods along, his hooves kicking up dust. Dust and twig follow, their bales swaying gently, while you wipe sweat from your brow, relieved to be on flatter ground. But relief is short-lived. You're approaching a tribal settlement, and their customs are as foreign as the stars. You must navigate their rituals, bow to their chief, and avoid offending them, or your silk and your safety could be at risk. One wrong gesture, and you're not just a merchant, you're an enemy. You spot the village ahead, its low houses ringed by goat pens and fluttering prayer flags. A crowd gathers, men in bright tunics, women with braided hair, children clutching wooden toys. Their chief, a wiry man with a hawkish face, stands at the center, his staff topped with a carved ram's head. You've heard of these tribes, nomads who control this stretch of the road, demanding respect from every passerby. A mainstream fact grounds you Silk Road tribes, like the Yuezhi in the 1st century CE, often acted as gatekeepers, blending trade with diplomacy to maintain power. You signal the caravan to halt, tethering Old Stone to a post as he snorts. Unimpressed by the welcome, the chief steps forward, his eyes scanning your silk bales. You bow low, as instructed by a trader in the last caravanserai. But the chief gestures sharply, pointing to your boots. You freeze, confused. Then notice the villagers are barefoot, their shoes piled by a stone marker. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some tribes believe wearing shoes in their presence insults their ancestors, tying the earth spirit to leather soles. You kick off your boots, wincing as hot sand burns your feet, and bow again, hoping you've got it right. Amir, behind you, mutters that you look like a dancing camel, and you shoot him a glare. Though his grin eases the tension, the chief nods, motioning you to a woven mat where a feast is laid out: flatbread, roasted goat, and bowls of fermented mare's milk. You sit cross-legged, your knees aching, and accept a cup of the milk, its sour tang making your eyes water. You sip politely, aware every move is watched. May and her brother join, her face calm, but her hands fidgeting, betraying her nerves. The chief speaks, his words a rapid patter you don't understand, but a boy translates, saying you must offer a gift to pass safely. Historians still argue whether such customs were hospitality or extortion. But out here, the line's blurry. You present a small bolt of silk, its crimson sheen drawing murmurs from the crowd. The chief accepts it, his smile thin but approving. Our drum starts, and the villagers dance, their movements sharp and rhythmic. You're pulled in, stumbling through steps, as a girl giggles at your clumsiness. You laugh, joking that your camels dance better, and the crowd roars, the mood lightening. But you stay alert, noting the armed men at the village's edge, their spears glinting. The feast ends with a ritual. You're handed a stone to place on a cairn, a pledge of peace. You do it carefully, the weight heavy in your hand, and the chief claps your shoulder, a sign you've passed the test. You return to your camels. Your feet sore, but your silk intact. Old Stone snorts as you untether him, as if mocking your bare feet. May whispers that you're lucky. Some traders lose half their goods to such tribes. You nod, relieved, and lead the caravan onward, the village's drums fading behind you. The road waits, and you've learnt another lesson: respect the customs, or the Silk Road will teach you the hard way. Section 13. Barter gone wrong. The Silk Road winds through a dusty plain, the air thick with the scent of dry grass and distant smoke as your caravan approaches Samarkand's bustling gates. Old Stone plods steadily, his hooves kicking up grit, while Dust and Twig shuffle behind, their bales of silk swaying under the midday sun. You've dreamed of this city's markets, where your crimson and indigo fabrics could fetch enough coin to fill your purse, or so you hope. But bartering here is a high-stakes game, and you're about to learn that even the finest silk doesn't guarantee a fair deal. One misstep, one greedy buyer, and your weeks of sweat and danger could unravel faster than a bad knot. You lead your camels through the city's arched entrance, paying a toll in copper coins to a guard who barely glances at you. Samarkand hums with life merchants, shouting, carts creaking, and the clang of a blacksmith's hammer. The market sprawls like a living thing, stalls piled with spices, furs, and glinting glass beads. You tether Old Stone near a fountain, his snort sounding like a complaint about the noise. A mainstream fact grounds you Samarkand. A Silk Road hub by the 4th century CE was a melting pot of trade, where Sogdian merchants, like those you'll face today, dominated deals with sharp tongues and sharper math. You unroll a bale of silk, its sheen catching the light, drawing a crowd of traders. A stout man in a green robe, his fingers heavy with rings, steps forward, introducing himself as Farhad. He inspects the fabric, his eyes narrowing as he rubs it between thumb and finger. You pitch your price 10 silver dirhams per bolt, expecting a haggle but hoping for a quick sale. Farhad scoffs, offering 3 dirhams and a sack of barley, claiming your silk's dye will fade by winter. You know he's bluffing. The saffron in your fabric holds fast, but his lowball stings. A quirky tidbit pops up: some Samarkand traders sprinkled water on silk to test its quality, believing good dye wouldn't run. Farhad doesn't bother, just smirks, waiting for you to crack. You counter, asking for 8 dirhams, your voice steady despite your racing pulse. Farhad laughs, drawing eyes from nearby stalls, and offers 4, tossing in a cheap bronze bracelet. You grit your teeth, feeling the crowd's gaze like a weight. Historians still argue whether Silk Road bartering favoured locals or foreigners, but right now, you're the outsider, and it shows. Amir, lounging by the camels, mutters that Farhad's rings look fake, a jab that makes you smile but doesn't help your deal. May, bartering nearby, catches your eye and shakes her head slightly. Don't fold. You hold firm, pointing out the silk's tight weave, fit for a caliph's court. Fahel shrugs, walking away, and your stomach drops. You need this sale, but pride keeps you rooted. Hours pass, the sun dipping, and no better offers come. You return to Farhad, swallowing your frustration, and accept 5 dirhams per bolt, plus the barley. It's less than you'd hoped. Your profit shaved thin, but it's enough to keep moving. He counts the coins slowly, each clink a small defeat. You pack the barley, joking to Amir that you'll be eating like a camel for weeks. He chuckles, saying at least Dust will be jealous. May, finishing her own deal. Knows approval at your persistence. But you feel the sting of the loss. You check Twig's load. His wheezing softer today. And lead the caravan to a caravanserai for the night. The market's lights fade. And you lie on your bedroll, replaying the barter. Samarkand's wealth is real. But it's not yours. Not yet. You clutch your remaining silk, vowing to haggle harder next time. The road's lessons etch deeper with every coin you didn't earn. Section 14. Guarding the goods. The Samarkand market fades into the night as your caravan settles in a cramped caravanserai. Its stone walls flickering with torchlight. Old Stone kneels in the courtyard, his humps sagging, while Dust and Twig huddle nearby, their bales of remaining silk stacked under a canvas tarp. The air smells of straw, sweat, and the faint tang of spilled wine from a nearby merchant's feast. You're exhausted, your purse lighter than you'd hoped after Farhad's stingy deal. But rest isn't an option. Thieves prowl these inns like wolves. And your silk, your lifeline, is a tempting prize. You sleep with your dagger close, eyes on the shadows, knowing one lapse could cost you everything. You check the tarp, tugging its edges to cover the bales completely. Each bolt of silk, still vibrant despite the road's dust, is worth more than a year's wages for a weaver back in Chang'an. Losing even one to a thief would be a disaster, turning your journey's slim profits into a loss. You tie extra ropes around the stack, knotting them tightly. A trick you learned from a Kashgar trader who swore by it. A mainstream fact grounds you theft was a constant threat on the Silk Road, with caravanserais from the 3rd century CE often hiring armed guards to deter bandits. Though many merchants, like you, couldn't afford them, you're your own guard tonight. Your dagger's weight in your belt a small comfort. Amir sprawls nearby, his knife across his lap, pretending to doze but watching the courtyard's comings and goings. May and her brother guard their pottery cart, her sharp eyes scanning every passerby. The caravanserai hums with activity merchants bartering late deals. Porters howling crates. A lute player strumming for tips. You spot a figure lingering near your camels, his cloak too long to trust. You stand, staff in hand, and call out, asking what he wants. He mumbles something about water and shuffles off. But your pulse doesn't slow. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some traders sprinkled ash around their goods, believing it cursed thieves with bad luck. You're tempted to try it, but you'd rather trust your blade than magic. You pace the courtyard, checking Old Stone's tether. He snorts, as if annoyed you're disturbing his sleep. And you mutter he'd be less grumpy if he carried the dagger instead. Mai overhears, chuckling softly, and you grin, the tension easing for a moment. Historians still argue whether theft or natural disasters claimed more Silk Road goods, but here, the human threat feels sharper. You recall that trader in the last oasis, his eyes hollow after losing half his spices to a night raid. You won't let that be you. You adjust Twig's blanket, his wheezing faint but steady, and pat his flank, whispering for him to stay strong. The night deepens, the lute fading, the courtyard quieter now. You sit by your bales, dagger across your knees, the cold stone numbing your legs. Amir tosses you a dried apricot, saying you look like a guard dog with a toothache. You laugh, tossing it back, joking that he's the one who'd scare thieves with his snoring. But you don't relax. Every creak, every shadow sets your nerves on edge. You sip from your water skin, the liquid stale, and scan the darkness. The silk's safe for now, but the road ahead holds more nights like this. More shadows waiting to strike. You lean against a bale, the coarse hemp rough under your palm. and let your eyes adjust to the torchlight's flicker. The caravanserai is a fortress, but no wall stops a determined thief. You grip your dagger tighter, its blade catching the fire's glow, and settle in for a long watch. The stars above offer no help, just cold light on a world that never sleeps easy. Your silk, your camels, your future, they're all here, under your guard, and you'll fight to keep them. Section 15. Language of Trade. The caravanserai's torches burn low as dawn creeps over Samarkand. Painting the courtyard in soft greys, you rise from your vigil, stiff from guarding your silk bales, and rouse old stone, dust, and twig, their grumbles blending with the morning's hum. The Silk Road beckons, leading your caravan toward a smaller market town, its mud brick walls rising from the dusty plain. Here, trade thrives on words as much as goods. And you're no poet. You'll need to stumble through a patchwork of languages, Sogdian, Persian, a bits of Chinese to seal a deal for your silk. One wrong phrase, one misunderstood gesture, could cost you a sale or spark a feud. Your dagger, tucked in your boot, is no help with this kind of battle. You guide your camels through the town's bustling market, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread and tanning leather. Stalls overflow with wool, dried herbs, and clay lamps, while merchants shout in a dozen tongues. You tether old stone near a well, his ears flicking at the noise, and unroll a bolt of indigo silk, its sheen drawing curious glances. A trader approaches, his turban bright, his smile cautious. He speaks a mix of Persian and something else, his words sharp and clipped. A mainstream fact grounds you by the 6th century CE. Sogdian traders dominated Silk Road commerce. Their language, a common tongue for deals from China to Byzantium, forcing merchants like you to adapt or lose out. You try a greeting in broken Sogdian, pieced together from phrases overheard in caravanserais. Good silk, good price, you say, the words clumsy on your tongue. The trader raises an eyebrow, replying in a rapid patter you barely follow. You catch coin and wait. I'm guessing he's asking your price. You hold up 6 fingers, 6 dirhams per bolt, hoping your gesture's clear. He shakes his head, offering 3, pointing to a stack of wool as if it's gold. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some traders used hand signals for numbers, a universal code when words failed. But you're no good at it, and your raised fingers feel like a plea. You try again, mixing Chinese and Persian. Finer silk, strong dye, but he just shrugs, unimpressed. Amir, lounging by the camels, chuckles at your struggle, saying you sound like a camel with a cold. You shoot him a look, muttering he'd do worse, and he laughs, tossing you a dried apricot for luck. May, bartering nearby, fares better, her Sogdian smoother as she trades pottery for spices. You watch her, envious, and try mimicking her tone, pointing to the silk's weave. The trader softens, offering 4 dirhams and a small silver ring. Historians still argue whether language barriers hindered or enriched Silk Road trade, but right now, you'd trade your boots for fluency. You nod, accepting the deal, pocketing the coins with a sigh. It's not what you hoped, but it's progress. You move to another stall, practicing phrases under your breath. A woman trader, her hands stained with henna, greets you in accented Chinese. A relief after the last round. You haggle more confidently, trading a bolt for 5 dirhams and a sack of dates. The words come easier now, your tongue loosening with each deal. You joke with her that your camels like the dates more than you, and she laughs, offering a free handful. My overhears, nodding approval, and you feel a small swell of pride. The market's chaos fades as you focus. Each phrase a step toward profit. You check Twig's load, his wheezing steady, and pat his flank, whispering, "Thanks for carrying you this far." The sun climbs, the market louder now, but you're finding your rhythm. The language of trade isn't just words, it's gestures, patience, and the stubborn will to be understood. You clutch your purse, heavier now, and lead the caravan forward, ready for the next town, the next tongue to tangle with. Section 16. Desert Fever Fears. The Silk Road Street retches across a sun-scorched desert, the horizon shimmering as you lead your caravan through waves of heat. Old Stone plods forward, his hooves sinking into the sand, while Dust flicks his tail at invisible flies, and Twig lags behind, his wheezing louder than usual. The air is dry, tasting of dust and despair, and your water skin hangs light at your hip. But it's not just thirst or bandits that gnaw at you today. Twig's sluggish steps and rasping breath hint at sickness, and rumors of plague haunt the road. A fever in the desert could claim your camel, your silk, or you, turning your journey into a grim tale whispered in caravanserais. You pose, squinting at Twig's drooping head, his eyes half closed. You kneel beside him, running a hand along his flank, feeling the heat radiating from his hide. He's not just tired, something's wrong. You've seen camels sicken before fever, bad feed, or worse, the kind of plague that wipes out entire caravans. A mainstream fact grounds you diseases, spread along the Silk Road from as early as the 2nd century CE, often followed trade routes, carried by fleas, tainted water, or sick travelers, devastating merchants and towns alike. You check Twig's mouth, his gums pale, and your stomach twists. Losing him means redistributing your silk, slowing you down, and risking more losses. You pour a small amount of water into your palm, letting Twig lap it up, his tongue sluggish. Amir, walking nearby, notices and frowns, asking if it's the desert fever. You shrug. I'm not wanting to say it aloud, but the fear's there. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some traders burned sage leaves to cleanse sick camels, believing the smoke drove out evil spirits. You don't have sage, but you rummage in your pack for dried mint, the nausea remedy you bought in an oasis, and crush it under Twig's nose, hoping it helps. He snorts, unimpressed, and you mutter, "He'd better not make you bury him out here." May, overhearing, smirks and says you're softer on that camel than on your own kin. The caravan halts, giving Twig a rest. You shade him with your cloak, tying it to your staff like a makeshift canopy. May and her brother check their own camels. Their faces tense. Sickness spreads fast. Amir shares a story of a trader who lost half his beasts to a fever near Kashgar, his goods abandoned to the dunes. You nod, trying to laugh it off, joking that Twig's too stubborn to die. But your voice is thin. Historians still argue whether disease or banditry was the Silk Road's greater killer. But right now, Twig's rasping breath makes the answer clear. You mix a pinch of salt into his water, a trick from a Sogdian who swore it revived weak camels, and coax him to drink. The sun climbs, baking the sand, and you feel the heat pressing on your chest. You sip from your own water skin, the liquid warm and gritty, and scan the horizon for an oasis, a place to rest and maybe find a healer. The road is merciless, offering no shade, no mercy. You lead the caravan forward, slower now, keeping Twig close. Dust snorts, as if annoyed at the delay, and you pat his flank, promising extra feed if he behaves. Mai walks beside you, silent but watchful, her hand on her dagger. You're all on edge, the spectre of fever heavier than the bales you carry. You check Twig again, his steps steadier, but his wheezing unchanged. You whisper to him, half prayer, half plea, to hold on. The desert doesn't care, but you do. Your silk, your profit, your survival, they all rest on this frail camel's back. You adjust his load, lighten it by shifting a bale to old stone, and keep moving, one anxious step at a time, toward a horizon that promises nothing but more sand and fear. Section 17. Festival Distractions. The Silk Road leads your caravan to a bustling town nestled in a fertile valley, where the air hums with the scent of blooming jasmine and sizzling meat. Old Stone plods through the crowded streets, his ears twitching at the sound of drums, while Dust and Twig follow, their bales of silk swaying under colourful banners strung across the market. Twig's fever seems to have eased, his wheezing softer, but you're still wary, keeping him close. Today, the town is alive with a festival, a whirl of music, dance, and exotic sweets tempting you to linger. But as a merchant, you know distractions can be costly, lose focus, and your silk might vanish. Or worse, you'll miss a deal. Yet, the festival's pull is strong, and for once, the road feels less like a grind and more like a celebration. You tether your camels near a shaded stall, paying a boy, a copper coin, to watch them. Old Stone snorts, eyeing a pile of overripe figs, and you nudge him away, muttering he's not here to feast. The market is a riot of colour, vendors, hawk saffron-dyed scarves, glazed pottery, and trays of honeyed pastries shaped like stars. A mainstream fact grounds you Silk Road festivals, common by the 7th century CE, were trade magnates, drawing merchants to towns like this to barter amid celebrations. Blending profit with cultural exchange, you unroll a bolt of silk, its crimson sheen catching eyes. But the festival's chaos makes haggling tricky. Everyone's too busy cheering dancers or sipping spiced wine. A vendor, her hands sticky with syrup, offers you a pastry, its surface glistening with nuts and honey. You hesitate, your purse tight after Samarkand's bad deal. But the smell is irresistible. You trade a small strip of silk for a handful, the sweetness exploding on your tongue. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some festivals featured sugar caravans, merchants who dealt only in sweets, their wares prized as much as gold. You savour the pastry, joking to Amir that you'd trade Dust for a cart of these. He laughs, saying Dust would eat the cart first. And you grin, the festival's joy loosening your guard. Drums pound as dancers swirl, their robes flashing in the sunlight. May, usually all business, watches, her foot tapping. Her brother buys a skewer of grilled lamb, offering you a bite. You accept, the meat tender, and thank him, feeling a rare camaraderie. Historians still argue whether festivals strengthened Silk Road trade or slowed it with distractions. But right now, you're leaning toward the former. You spot a trader eyeing your silk, his turban heavy with beads. You pitch 6 dirhams per bolt. Your Sogdian smoother now, and he counters with 5 and a jar of rosewater. It's a fair deal, and you shake hands, pocketing the coins, the festival's rhythm fueling your confidence. Children race past, chasing a painted kite, and you step aside, nearly tripping over a juggler's dropped ball. You laugh, tossing it back, and he bows, calling you a lord. You wave it off, but the moment lifts you. The festival's energy is infectious, but danger lurks, pickpockets weave through the crowd. And you check your purse. I relieved it's still there. Amir, ever watchful, scans the stalls, his knife visible. May sells a pot, her smile rare and bright. And you nod approval. You check Twig's load, his steps steadier, and pat his flank, whispering thanks for pulling through. The sun dips, the festival glowing under torchlight. You're tempted to stay, to dance or buy another pastry. But the road calls. You lead your camels out, the drums fading behind you, the coins in your purse clink. A small victory, and the taste of honey lingers. For a moment, the Silk Road feels less like a burden and more like a story worth living. Section 18. Rival Merchant Games. The Silk Road unfurls across a sun-baked plain, the horizon wavering as your caravan trudges toward the next trading post. Old Stone plods steadily, his hooves kicking up dust, while dust snaps at flies and twig, now steadier after his fever. To keeps pace, the festival's sweetness lingers in your memory. But the road demands focus. You've caught the eye of a rival merchant, a wiry Sogdian named Kava, whose caravan shadows yours. His camels loaded with spices and smug confidence. He's been undercutting your deals since Samarkand, and now he's playing games, trying to outwit you in the market. One slip, one lost sale, and he'll crow his victory while your silk gathers dust. You spot Kava's caravan ahead, his banners flapping as he enters a bustling market town. The air smells of roasted chickpeas and hot metal, stalls crowded with traders, bartering furs, brass lamps, and jars of pungent oil. You tether Old Stone near a water trough, his snort a warning to stay sharp. A mainstream fact grounds you by the 8th century CE. Sogdian merchants like Cavay were the Silk Road's master traders, their networks stretching from China to Persia, often outmaneuvering rivals through charm or cunning. You unroll a bolt of indigo silk, its sheen drawing eyes, but Cavay's already working the crowd, his voice loud, offering saffron for half what you'd charge. You approach a buyer, a stout man with a gold chain, pitching 6 dirhams per bolt. He hesitates, glancing at Cavay, who's now tossing free spice pouches to onlookers, his grin sharp as a blade. You grit your teeth, recognizing the game. Cavay's undercutting you, flooding the market with cheap goods to steal your customers. A quirky tidbit surfaces: some Sogdians carried fake gems to sweeten deals, passing them off as jade until they were long gone. You wouldn't put it past Cavay, but you've no proof, just a hunch and a growing grudge. You counter by lowering your price to 5 dirhams, your voice steady despite the sting. The buyer nods, but Cavay swoops in, offering 4 and a vial of rose oil, his eyes flicking to you with a smirk. Amir, lounging by the camels, mutters that Cava's smile deserves a fist, and you laugh, saying you'd rather hit his profits. May, bartering nearby, catches your eye, her nod urging you to fight smarter. Historians still argue whether competition or cooperation drove Silk Road trade. But out here, it's a knife's edge of both. You change tactics, offering 2 bolts for 9 dirhams, emphasizing your silk's durability. The buyer bites, handing over coins, and you pocket them. A small win. Kava doesn't quit. He trails you to the next stall, his banter loud, drawing a crowd away from your silk. You spot him slipping a small pouch to a trader, maybe a bribe. and your blood simmers. You keep your cool, focusing on a new buyer, a woman with sharp eyes who tests your Sogdian. You compliment her scarf, a risky move that pays off when she smiles. Buying a bolt for 6 dirhams. You joke that her camels must envy her bargaining. And she chuckles, tossing you an extra coin for charm. Amir claps your shoulder, saying Kaveh's not the only fox here. The day ends with your purse heavier. But Kaveh's still out there, his caravan leaving as yours does, his shadow long. You check Twig's load, his steps firm, and pat Old Stone, whispering thanks for carrying you through. The road's a game, and Kaveh's a player, but you're learning his moves. You'll meet him again, and next time, you'll be ready to turn his smirk into a scowl. Section 19, Road's End. Relief. The Silk Road winds through a final stretch of dusty plains, the air heavy with the scent of dry earth and distant rain as your caravan nears a sprawling city, its minarets glinting under the setting sun. Old Stone plods forward, his hooves steady despite the long miles, while Dust flicks his tail, and Twig, now stronger, keeps pace, his wheezing a faint echo of the fever that nearly took him. Your silk bales, fewer now, after trades, still gleam with promise. But your body aches, your boots are worn thin, and your purse holds just enough to call this journey a success. If you can close one last deal, you've survived bandits, fevers, and covers tricks, and the city ahead feels like a finish line, though the road never truly ends. You guide your camels through the city's arched gates, paying a toll to a guard who counts your coins with a yawn. The market hums, stalls piled with figs, copper pots, and bolts of linen. The crowd, a swirl of robes and languages. You tether Old Stone near a shaded corner, his snort a tired complaint, and check Twig's load, relieved he's held up. A mainstream fact grounds you cities like this. Thriving Silk Road hubs by the 9th century CE that were where merchants like you turned months of risk into profit. Their markets linking east and west in a web of trade and tales. You unroll a bolt of crimson silk, its colour catching the torchlight. Ready to make your final sale, a trader approaches, his beard neatly trimmed, his eyes sharp but kind. You pitch 5 dirhams per bolt. Your Sogdian smoother now, honed by weeks of haggling. He offers 4 and a small jade pendant. A fair deal you're too tired to argue. You shake hands, pocketing the coins. The weight, a quiet triumph. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some traders mark their final sale with a prayer, believing it blessed their return journey. You don't pray, but you touch the pendant, hoping for safe roads home. Amir, watching nearby, nods approval, saying, "You've earned a rest." You joke that rest is for camels, not merchants, and he laughs, tossing you a dried date. May seals her own deal, her pottery nearly gone, her purse clinking as she joins you. Her brother shares a skewer of spiced meat, and you savor the bite. The city's energy, a balm after the desert's grind. Historians still argue whether Silk Road merchants found wealth or just survival. But right now, with coins in hand and your camels alive, you feel closer to the former. You glance at Kaveh's caravan across the market, his banners still bold, but he avoids your gaze. Perhaps stung by your last win, you smile, small but satisfied, and check Dust's ropes. His twitchy ears calmer today. The market slows as night falls, torches casting long shadows. You lead your caravan to a caravanserai, its courtyard quieter than Samarkand's chaos. You settle your camels, feeding Twig an extra handful of grain. His eyes brighter now, You sit by a fire, counting your earnings. The numbers better than you'd feared. The road's been brutal bandits. Fevers. Bad deals, but you're here. Alive. With silk sold and stories to tell. May shares a cup of tea. Its warmth seeping into your hands. And Amir hums a tune. The notes soft against the night. You lie on your bedroll. The stars, above the caravanserai's arches, a familiar map. The city's hum fades. And for the first time in weeks, you feel the weight lift. Not gone, but lighter. You've made it. Not to wealth, but to something solid. The Silk Road waits. Always. But for now, you've earned this moment. This breath. This fragile peace. Section 20. Legacy in Silk. The city's dawn is quiet. A gentle glow spilling over the caravanserai's stone arches as you prepare to leave the Silk Road behind. At least for now. Old Stone kneels in the courtyard, his humps steady, while Dust and Twig chew their feed. Their bales gone, traded for coins and goods that weigh heavy in your pack. The air carries the scent of fresh bread and cooling earth, a contrast to the desert's harsh breath. Your journey's end is here, not in a grand triumph, but in the quiet relief of survival. Your silk sold, your camels alive, and your story one worth telling. You reflect on the road, its lessons woven into you like the threads you carried, and let the weight of it all fade as sleep beckons. You check your purse. To the clink of dirhams, a small but hard-won victory, the pendant from your last deal, jade and cool to the touch, hangs at your belt, a reminder of the trader's kind eyes. You've traded most of your silk, keeping one small bolt, crimson, tightly woven for home. Maybe a gift for your family, or a keepsake of this grueling path. A mainstream fact grounds you the Silk Road, flourishing from the 2nd century BCE to the 14th century CE. Wasn't just a trade route, but a legacy. Its merchants, like you, carrying not only goods but ideas, faiths, and cultures across continents. Your journey, one among countless, is a thread in that vast tapestry. You pat Twig's flank, his wheezing nearly gone, and whisper, thanks for his stubborn heart. Old Stone snorts, as if claiming credit, and you chuckle, tossing him a dried apricot. Amir packs his own gear, his knife tucked away, his grin softer now, tempered by the road's toll. May and her brother load their cart, their pottery traded for spices and coin, their faces weary but content. A quirky tidbit lingers. Some merchants marked their return with a small tattoo, a star or a camel, to honor the road's trials. You haven't done it, but the idea feels right. A quiet nod to the dust and danger you've outlasted. The caravanserai stirs, other traders preparing to move on or return home. You overhear a story of a caravan lost to a sandstorm, their silk buried like a forgotten dream. It reminds you of the old trader's tale of a golden city. A lure. You resisted. Historians still argue whether the Silk Road's greatest impact was economic or cultural, but to you, it's personal. Every deal, every danger, every starlit night has shaped you. You sling your pack over your shoulder, lighter now, and lead your camels out, their hooves steady on the packed earth. The city's gates open to a road that leads home, not to Chang'an yet, but to rest, to family, to a life you've earned. The morning sun warms your face, the horizon soft and endless. You think of the weavers who spun your silk, the markets that bartered it, the camels that carried it. Your legacy isn't gold or glory. It's the quiet pride of having walked the road and returned. You nod to Amir and May, your companions through dust and doubt, and they nod back. No words needed. The Silk Road will call again. Its paths never truly done. But for now, you let it fade. Let the rhythm of hooves lull you. Let the world grow still. Your eyes grow heavy. The caravans sway, a gentle rocking. The road stretches on in your mind, but its edges blur, softening into dreams. You see the stars above the desert, the gleam of silk in torchlight, the faces of traders, kind and cunning, the sounds of the road hooves. Drums, whispered deals melt into a hum, warm and distant. You're safe now, not on the sand but in this moment, carried by the story's end. The Silk Road is behind you, its weight lifted, its lessons yours to keep. You drift, the world quiet, the night soft, and sleep wraps you like a well-worn cloak. Let the stars fade. Let the camels rest. Let the road wait. You've earned this peace, this stillness, this gentle end. The caravan's dust settles now, the Silk Road fading into a soft, warm haze. You're no longer walking, no longer counting coins or checking ropes. The camels, old stone, dust, and twig, are safe, their hooves silent, their burdens gone. The market's clamour, the desert's heat, the weight of silk, they're all distant, like a story told by someone else. You lean back, your breath slowing, matching the rhythm of a world at rest. The stars you followed, bright above the dunes, dim gently, their light a whisper against the night. The road was long, its trials heavy, but you carried them, step by step, and now you can let them go. Feel the coolness of the air, the softness of your bed, the quiet that holds you. No more bandits, no more fevers, just this moment, this ease. The Silk Road story is yours, woven into your dreams, but it asks nothing more tonight. Let your thoughts drift, like sand carried on a breeze, scattering, fading. The world is still, the fire low, the night yours. Sleep comes, soft as silk, warm as dawn. Rest now, deeply, fully, and let tomorrow wait.